Hello all and welcome to another in-depth review of the Airsoft G&G M14 Mod 0 Enhanced Battle Rifle Short Version AEG, marketed by G&G as the GR14 HBA-S. In this video we'll be going over this weapon section by section, pointing out its different features, pros and cons, giving you an insight of the weapon if you're interested in purchasing it. The real steel version of this weapon is a modernisation of the original US Army M14, which fires a 7.62 NATO round to replace the US Army's aging M1 Garand rifle, some parts of which are similar to the M14. It was briefly used in the early Vietnam conflict until it was replaced by the M16 rifle. However, recent conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan have seen a resurgence of the M14, such as the real steel version of this one, the M14 Enhanced Battle Rifle, or EBR for short. So with that, let's get on with the review. This airsoft weapon is G&G Armament's take on the M14 EBR. This was my first airsoft gun that I purchased in the UK and has since been upgraded a few times, so certain things are not to stock from what you would get if you purchased it brand new. My main reason for going with the EBR was because of this game. Now I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely loved the sound of this gun in the game. So, when you purchase this AEG, this is what you get in the box. Namely, the AEG, one high cap magazine, one cleaning rod, about 100 white BBs, and a mini to large Tamiya connector. Since I don't use Tamiya connectors, I have thrown that away. As this AEG supports rail mounts, your accessory list is almost endless. However, there is one official accessory by G&G that I recommend you purchase, and that is a proprietary scope mount for this AEG, which I'll discuss in depth later. The length of the AEG with the rear stock fully retracted is about 85.5 centimeters. The length of the AEG with the rear stock fully extended is about 100 centimeters. The weight of the AEG without any accessories or the magazine is approximately 4.25 kilos. The upper receiver is actually in two parts on this AEG. The first part at the front of this weapon is made from CNC aluminium bolted down to the lower receiver. This part features mainly the monolithic rail and a sling loop in its default position, which has been removed in this video. The second part of the upper receiver is mostly a decorative shroud for the gearbox and the hop-up adjustment. It features a bolt handle which can be pulled back to reveal the hop-up adjustment wheel with indications for adjusting the hop, and a small imprint below that saying Capital of Greedy Island. A single rail mount can be found just forward of the rear iron sights. The rear iron sights is a simple peephole-like loop which can be adjusted for elevation and windage using the adjustment wheels on either side of it. Just behind the bolt handle is a fire selector. With it showing the shooter a blank face, it is in semi-automatic. Push it in and twist it clockwise, showing the A means it is in full auto. To switch it back to semi-automatic again, push it in and rotate it counterclockwise. On the left hand side of the upper receiver is the bolt locking lever. Pulling the bolt back and pushing this lever in locks the bolt to the rear. To release the bolt, either pull the bolt itself back slightly and release it forward, or push the lever up and let the bolt fly forward with a distinctive but satisfying clack noise and feel. Also on this side is a screw hole mount for the G&G proprietary scope mount. To install this, first you must remove the single rail mount just in front of the rear sight. Then, sliding on the scope mount onto where the rear single rail mount used to be, and then screwing it in from the side and also the top using a hex key. And finally, just behind the rear iron sights, the upper receiver is stamped with the words US Rifle 7.62mm M14 G&G Armament with a serial number below. The muzzle of this weapon is a simple affair here with a single non-adjustable front sight. Silencers cannot be mounted or attached to this muzzle, nor can the actual flash hider be replaced. It appears that G&G has taken a shortcut route of using the front end from its M14 SOCOM model rather than the actual vortex flash hider as you would find on a real M14 EBR. While you can remove the flash hider, it uses a proprietary thread, and also you need the flash hider as it's part of the entire gas cylinder lock nut, otherwise the rest of the parts will not stay in place. The lower receiver is the main body of the weapon. At the front end we have rail mounts on the sides and bottom for a variety of accessories. Moving back from here we come across the first piece of plastic, which is the front handguard. This is where the battery is placed. It is a very tight fit for most nickel metal hydride batteries, although lipos will fare better. It is accessed by removing 3 screws on either side of the handguard and then dropping the handguard down to reveal the battery connector. Originally it had a mini Tamiya connector, however in my rifle I've since replaced this with a Dean's connector from a MOSFET. Moving further back we come across the magazine well and the magazine release catch. To insert a magazine, insert it front side first before clicking it into place. To remove the magazine, press on the magazine release catch and then remove the magazine. Behind the magazine catch is a trigger assembly and safety catch. Safety is on when it's clicked back and off when clicked forward, allowing for a safe and quick engagement. And lastly, we have the pistol grip, which is made from ABS plastic. Unlike other airsoft weapons where the motor is situated inside the pistol grip, in this one there is no motor inside it, meaning that it is thinner and more closely resembles the real steel EBR. And finally we have the rear stock. This can be extended by pushing down on a lever between the stock rails, which reveals a few more rail mounts between the stock rails. To retract the stock rails, push down on the lever again and push the stock back in. The cheek rest on this weapon is adjustable by lifting up this lever. Then, using a small tool, depressing the button inside the stock and lifting the cheek rest upwards. Once you've achieved your desired height, close the lever back down. The magazine outer is made from metal and has a nice weighty and quality feel to it. They hold approximately 450 rounds and is filled from a large trap door from the top, which facilitates loading. The only con of this magazine is that they are G&G proprietary and not Tokyo Moroi compatible. However, I have been told that Classic Army M14 magazines will fit. I only own high cap magazines as they are more readily available in the UK. However, G&G does have mid-cap 80 round magazines also available. As great and well made as this AEG is, it does have a few cons. These are some of the ones I've experienced whilst owning this AEG. Firstly, the battery compartment. It is very difficult to get to quickly. You have to undo 6 hex screws in order to get inside, and it is also a very tight fit for most batteries and sometimes even for small lipos, as ill placement will result in the bolt handle binding with the battery, meaning you can't access the hop-up adjustment, or worse, damage the battery wires. Secondly, the originally installed single rail mount just in front of the rear sight is ever so slightly higher than the main monolithic rail, which means you cannot mount a scope between the single rail mount and the monolithic rail. In order to mount a scope there, you will need to either purchase the proprietary scope mount from G&G or push your scope or sights further up the rails. Thirdly is the hop-up chamber plate. This plate covers the top part of the gearbox and the hop-up adjustment. On it has a small decorative L-shaped piece of metal which G&G has only glued in place and therefore prone to falling off. I still have this piece, however I have heard of others losing it out in the field. My fourth problem with this AEG is loose screws. It is one of the most irritating things about this AEG in that certain screws in certain places keep loosening themselves at various parts, such as the front rails, the pistol grip, and more worryingly the rear stock. I have since had to disassemble this weapon and use Loctite on certain screws to keep them in place. My last gripe about this AEG is the non-modifiable flash hider on the muzzle. I only noticed this after I purchased the AEG and was somewhat annoyed that basically G&G took the shortcut route of adding this version from their SOCOM line. Whilst G&G does sell the Vortex flash hider and an M14 sound suppressor adapter, they are only for the long version of the EBR or M14s and will not fit this version of the EBR. So in conclusion, the G&G M14 EBR is an excellent AEG made with quality components both in and outside, with a few cons here and there. If you do purchase this AEG, be mindful of the weight, as once you add everything to it, it'll probably be pushing 5 kilos. However, the weighted style of this AEG means it's probably more suited for a DMR platform. Lastly, I would recommend that you purchase the additional scope mount, as this makes life a lot easier. In the next video, I'll be disassembling this AEG down to the gearbox and also pointing out the screws to you that you should use glue on. So guys, thank you for watching this video. Like it if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it. If you have any comments or questions, queries, whatever, leave them in the comment section down below. I'll try and respond to them. So until the next video.